I think the simplest way to take a look at a database design is to consider a scenario. So here's my scenario. My scenario is I need to store customer orders. A customer can place multiple orders. An order can contain multiple products, and products can be ordered multiple times. All right, well, let's take a look at a first pass here. Now, one of the things that I want to highlight is as I go through these first couple of passes, you are going to notice this is not going to be good design. That's sort of going to be my teaching technique here. So I do want to highlight for anybody who maybe has done a little bit of work with databases, maybe you've worked with Access, which is a database, and you've designed things inside of there, so you're a little bit familiar with how to do this. Don't worry. I know that this is terrible design right up front. We're going to make this look better. If you're maybe watching this with somebody else and you sort of know how all of this is going to end, don't give away the ending. Let's take a look at the first pass of how we might design this database. So what you're going to notice is I create one huge honking table for orders. And what you're going to notice is that I've got an order date. Okay, that's fair. Got a customer. Okay, that's fair. And now the first question that I have is going back to one of the requirements that an order can have multiple products. So I decided, all right, well, let's just start creating columns for that. So we've got a column called product 1. And then a column called quantity 1. So that's going to tell us how many of product 1 we ordered. So we ordered 5 widgets in that first order for Christopher. Then I've got another set of columns, product 2, and then quantity 2. So we ordered 3 mouses or 3 mice. But what happens if somebody wants to order 3 products at once, or 4, or 5, or 6? Well, the question then starts to become, well, how many columns do we add? When do we stop? It's a good question. So obviously we've got a problem here. How many columns do we create? Well, this is where normalization comes into play. Now, one of the goals of normalization is to be a set of guidelines to help us design our database, to help us solve these questions that quite frequently come up. So the first form of normalization, first normal form, is that we're going to create a table that has no repeating groups. Basically, no duplicated columns. So how are we going to handle this? Well, what we want is we want a separate table to store our products. And then what we're going to do is we're going to point our orders at the products table for product information. So how do we solve this? Well, we can solve this specific issue by creating a brand new table for our products and then point the products table at the orders for that order information. Okay, well, let's give that a shot. Let's see what happens. Take 2. So what you'll notice, we've got our orders table, and you'll notice that we've trimmed out all the product information. So I just have the order ID, the order date, and my customer. Now we've added on that order ID, and that's going to be our primary key. So that's going to uniquely identify every single order. Then what we've got is we've got our products table. And our products table has information about the products as they've been ordered. Now inside of that products table, we added on an order ID column. And that order ID column is a foreign key, and that's going to point to the order ID in orders. So for the rest of the information about how the order was placed, we're going to go back to that orders table. This has got problems though. Yeah, if you take a look at that, what you're going to notice is that we've got an awful lot of duplicated row data. That every single time that a customer places an order, we've now got to duplicate that information. I mean, in my case right now, all I'm storing is their name, but what about a real world scenario where I've got, their email address and I've got their physical address? It's a lot of duplicated data. And then think about our products. Same thing. I've got a lot of duplicated data. So how do we solve that? Well, this is where second normal form comes into play. Now, Second normal form is described, and I've actually simplified this from the true definition, as no non-prime attribute is dependent on a subset of any key. Or put another way, if a column could uniquely identify an item, for example, product name, don't duplicate it. So with that in mind, let's go back to that design and let's get rid of that duplicated data. Let's get rid of the duplicated customer information, and we're going to do this by creating a brand new customer table. Now, we'll set this up as a one-to-many relationship, one customer, many orders. And then let's create a brand new setup for orders and their products. Now, if you think about this, this is going to be a many-to-many relationship because a product could be ordered many times. An order could have many products. So what we're going to need is a table in the middle. We're going to need a join table, and we'll call ours order details. So let's take a look at how this would come together. So take 3. You'll notice we've got our orders table, and you'll notice that on orders, we added in that customer ID column. That customer ID column is going to be that foreign key, and that's going to point at our brand new customers table. It's got that new table smell still, don't you think? So over there, now we've got our customer ID. So now our customer information is going to be listed just the one time. And if we want to find out information about a customer that placed an order, then we're going to navigate from orders into customers by following that little foreign key over to the primary key for the customer. Cool. Customer ID, by the way, inside of customers is going to be our primary key. Now, this is a classic perfect example of a one-to-many relationship. One customer, many orders. Now let's take a look at a bigger change. So again, we still have our orders table, but now we're going to create a brand new products table. So that way on our products table, we can add in all the information about our products and again have single storage. So what you're going to notice that I've got my name column there, and I've also got a brand new column that I added on called list price that will be storing the price inside of there. And then finally, you're going to notice that product ID. That product ID is going to be the primary key for our products. Now, what we need is we need something that's going to bring these two together. So that way my order can have multiple products, my products can have multiple orders. That is where that order details table in the middle is going to come into play. So our order ID is going to point at the orders table. The product ID is going to point at the products table. And now we can have information about each line item. So you'll notice on the first row there, we've got order ID 1. That's going to point to our first order. We've got product ID 1. That's going to point to our first product, which is a widget. You'll notice that we ordered 5 of those. You'll also notice that we're going to store the sale price inside of there. Now, I'm going to talk a bit more about that in the next slide, but I want to highlight right away that the reason that we did this is because what happens if the list price on products changes? Well, we want to make sure that we can still see what the price was when we ordered it. So that's why we're going to store that. And then you'll also notice that I've got a real quick calculation inside of there to say that the total for that line, 5 times 42, is going to be $210. Then you'll notice the next order detail, again, going back to order ID 1. You'll notice that we've now got product ID 2, so we're pointing at our mouse. We've got our quantity of 3. We've got our sale price of 16. And then again, the total, 3 times 16, 48. I apologize. I should have warned you there was going to be math on this. So now I've got everything divided up pretty well.